and welcome back. My name is Selena Lloyd. I am the Executive Director at Altius Senior Living. We are located in Plano, a suburb of Dallas. I am finding out that not very many people know about residential care homes. And so today, I'm going to spend a little bit of time just letting you know the ins and outs and what a residential care home actually does, who it's for, who it can benefit, and some of the differences between residential care homes and assisted living. One of the things I want to highlight and make sure that everyone is aware of is that we are not a medical facility. Residential care homes are there to assist in the activities of daily living for our residents that are there, and also be a supportive environment for their healthcare needs. So we are allowed to have hospice and home health, visiting physicians, we're allowed to have them come in. So although we are able to sustain and help the seniors in that way, or the residents that are in our home, we're not actually a medical facility. We offer the assistance in all of the typical daily stuff that they're doing. So in my home in particular, we have a chef that provides all the meals. We have 24-hour care. We have 2 caregivers, 24 hours a day. All residential care homes have 24-hour-a-day care. We also provide medication management, housekeeping, and social activities. Those are basically the basics of what we provide in that environment. But one of the things that I think is most important and substantially different in our environment compared to assisted living is that because we only have a maximum of 8 residents at a time, and we have 2 caregivers, that's a 4-to-1 ratio. So every caregiver is, maxed at 4 residents that they're taking care of at a time. That's completely unheard of in the building environment. When you're in a building, it's just not possible for them to be able to only be taken care of 4 at a time. One of the main things that benefits your loved one is the fact that we become a little family. And by becoming a little family, we get to know your mom or dad, and we get to know our residents really, really well. So we know if mom's acting a little bit different, or if we need to be concerned and let the family or the doctor know that something might be going on, possibly and most likely, most often, a urinary tract infection, which is why we did another podcast about that, the incidences of them, what to look for. And so that's interesting if you're wanting to educate yourself a little bit more about your loved one, if you have older parents or family members or friends. That's an interesting and informative podcast. But by having that close-knit environment, we are able to, see if they're not eating all the factors that really matter that are hard to pick up on, that you don't pick up on unless you're really closely, integrated into their lives, which is how it is in our residential care homes. When mom is not eating as much or doesn't want to, do the typical things that she normally does, we notice. Those little signs are much easier ways to keep them out of the hospital. When you wait and wait and wait until it becomes something bigger, then those little things that could have been taken care of early on end up becoming much more detrimental to your family member, and sometimes end up in the hospital. And we're trying to avoid that. Going back and forth to the hospital really does cause quite a lot of stress. They get poked and prodded. They get woken up at all hours of the night. They get moved around, and it's just not a fun thing for them to experience. So if in any way at all we can prevent those things from happening, that's what we're trying to do. Also, one of the main benefits, which is really lovely for me, is that food is one of the last pleasures that we get to experience. And if we are able to provide a type of food more often that they really like, we can do that. If we hear from them, and I'm constantly going in there and asking my residents, how are you enjoying this? Or did you like that? Or how can we improve? Because it's a constantly moving target, but I think it's worthwhile because, like I said, it being one of the last pleasures, I want them to fully enjoy that in our home. So it's something pretty important to us that we work closely with the families and the residents. I remind them that I can't please everybody, but we're doing our absolute best. In our home in particular, I tried really hard to make the look of a big building, the big, new, beautiful buildings with the feel of a home. And we accomplished that. It is a home environment, which is much, it's a very different experience than those big buildings. The big buildings are wonderful for the people who can take advantage of all the amenities they have, the big pools, the pool tables, the movie theater rooms. But reality is that most of the time when they need assisted living, they're not walking, really long distances, 400 or 500 feet to go enjoy something. They like to be in a smaller environment. Walking tends to get harder. It's more laborious and taxing on them. And so it keeps them from doing things. And we're able to provide some entertainment in the home that they don't have to go walk, or if they don't want to participate, that's something that we allow as well. We're not going to make it something that they're going to feel guilty about not doing. It's something that I think is important. I myself want to be able to grow old and experience life the way I want to. We do that for our seniors. If they're, not an early bird, they get up when they want. We adjust to their schedule, and that's the benefit of being in a smaller environment like a residential care home. In the buildings, they don't have as much flexibility. They're going to wake you up when the caregiver is available to give meds. They're going to have breakfast at a certain time, lunch at a certain time, and dinner at a certain time. If you don't make those times, then you have to pay to have it delivered, or you just don't get a meal that day. And so hopefully you have something you can microwave in your apartment, which kind of defeats the purpose of paying all those fees to have your food and meals provided. One of the other benefits is the staff, the training that we do, where we can very much cater to specifics in training rather than just meet the necessary training. We get to really make it specific to our caregivers. We are able to have, like I said, home health come into our building, so we can have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and nursing services. If the doctor says that they need it, if the doctor writes orders for it, then the home health nurse and everybody else can come in to our home. We coordinate. They will message me. I will let the caregivers know. We'll let the resident know. We let the family know. And everybody's in the loop. So it's a little bit of more of a holistic type of care for the resident where everybody knows what's going on. And like I said, it's because it's a smaller environment, that makes it much easier to provide that type of care. Noticing the small differences in that small environment really, really makes a big difference. Safety and security, we provide just as well as the buildings. We have somebody there 24 hours a day. In my home in particular, we have cameras in the public spaces and the kitchen, the living room, front door, back door, and that just lets us know who's coming in and out of the home. We're licensed, so we had to go through quite a rigorous process of sprinkler systems and all kinds of safety measures. We have to do fire drills once a month. We have several things that we have in place that make the home environment also a safe environment for your loved one. Cost is something as well that people don't really know too much about. Some people are under the assumption that it's, like a group home. A lot of people call them group homes, and that they're, I guess you could say residential care homes run the gamut. They can be really, really cheap. They can be really expensive or more expensive than an assisted living building. And that all depends on the services they provide or whether they're licensed or not. So if they only have 3 and they're not licensed, usually their pricing is not quite as much. One of the differences in my home and one of my standards is that I choose to charge by level of care. So I do not change prices whether you're in a shared space or not. And that's because I truly believe that whether you're in a shared space or not, your family member is going to get the same amount of care, the same amount of love, the same amount of attention as someone else in a shared space. We are selling care. We are not selling real estate. And so that's something that's important to me. I want everyone to feel like they're getting just as much as the next person. Depending on where mom or dad is, where your loved one is, their needs and services that we will provide are what determine the price. That is all inclusive. There is no upcharge if mom needs more showers that week or that kind of stuff. And that's a huge difference with us and the assisted living buildings. Assisted living buildings are going to charge if she needs more medication administration, more showers that week, more laundry. They'll add a bunch of little charges here and there as the needs progress. Mine is all inclusive. When there's a big change in care that is going to be prolonged, that we know is not going to change, then the level will go up. But the family members are aware of the levels that we have. So you know what to expect, which is important because we all know it's expensive to get old. We've got a limited amount, and it's typically static. It's not growing, and you need to know it's going to last this long. How long am I going to be able to provide this type of care for mom or dad? It's important. And so since I know that that's what our families are considering and thinking, I try to make it as simple and as the most ability to be able to plan ahead to what they can do for their mom or dad. I communicate with them. And, if mom and dad get sick for a week, but we know they're going to be fine, they need more help that week, but that's it. We're not making any changes. That's one of the big factors that a lot of people are not aware of. When you go to a building, they tell you a certain price. You think that that's going to be where mom or dad are at for years, and that's just not the case. And we're trying to get them to age in place because moving is expensive, difficult, taxing. It is disorienting to our senior population, especially if they already have dementia. So those are things that I'm trying to avoid my family members getting all, dealing with so much more. Simple and straightforward is what we're trying to do. One of the things when you're out looking for a residential care home for your loved one, something to note is to ask questions. Ask, how many are on staff. Ask how often they have that many caregivers on staff. Ask them where they're getting their food from. That's important. When the caregivers are having to provide the meals, that takes up a lot of time. They are spending a lot of time in the kitchen, cooking, cleaning, preparing, meal planning, buying the groceries, all of that stuff. It's a laborious process. So ask about that stuff. Ask about if they're licensed. Ask if they've had any complaints. Those are all things that are on record that you can find out, and you want to know that you're putting your loved one somewhere. You want to make sure that it's safe. You can tell if they are licensed by the sprinkler system. That's a big indicator. It's obvious if they have the sprinkler heads, then you know. And if they have more than 3, then it's required in Texas that you have a license. So those are some little tips when you're out there looking for your loved one. That's important to know. Ultimately, you really want to find a place where it's a good fit for your loved one. Each residential care home has their own kind of feel, has their own practices and goals and how they want their home to run. And I've been really lucky that the people that have chosen to place their loved ones with us are active and still moving about, and that's been wonderful. So when people come and tour, they are getting to meet and socialize with the other residents that are there. They like to go sit on the patio. They're still a lively bunch. So in that way, it's a good fit for someone else who's still active and still wanting to socialize. Some of the homes, aren't in that position. They have other residents that are much more higher need, and so they're not as talkative. And it's appropriate for someone who's like that. It's not appropriate for someone. Your family member wouldn't be happy if they're active and still wanting to get up and walk around and chit chat. That's not the place for them. So, doing your due diligence of getting out there, meeting them, that helps a lot. Going to the place helps a lot because you will see it's different than the website pictures. Seeing a home in action tells a story, and it's an important story. Other than that, those are pretty much, the main differences between residential care homes and assisted living buildings. And like I said, I want more people to know that we exist because it's a really good alternative to the big buildings. Some people are overwhelmed by that. And if people don't know that these places exist, they think the building is the only safe place for their loved one. And so I want more people to know. So share this video. Let us know if you want to hear anything more. And hopefully we'll get more people on board and understanding that this is an option. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.